All right, well, I guess we can get started. Let me
Mhm.
just pull up my documents here.
Oh, I am um I'm distracted a little bit trying to it's not letting me sign into the strategic plan right now, Mark. I'm sure it's one of my many technical issues, so just bear with me. Keep going. I'm right behind you.
Okay. Getting there, getting there. All right.
Are we
So
starting the meeting yet?
we are starting the meeting. Welcome
Excellent.
to the let's see, September 23rd Richmond Housing Committee meeting.
Good.
Um, any
Is this
feedback?
being recorded? Did you start the recording?
Yes.
Yes, and you should be
Okay.
able to see it up in the header if you hover over it. So yes.
Okay, great. Oh, yes. Very good.
Any updates, changes to the agenda for tonight, or any walk-on topics?
Nope.
The only thing that I did want to we can just touch on briefly is just an update to the town plan work. And I believe I saw a note from you, Virginia, or Keith, around the intro that we had put together was good by the committee, right? Like the plan was a
So
good draft.
let's see.
So is this an agenda? Are we talking
Yeah,
about
we
an
can talk about
agenda
that
item?
later.
We're
Okay.
going to talk about it later? Okay.
Yep. We still have to get past the minutes, right?
Yes. Oh, okay. There are some edits to that. Okay. Um, all right. So, moving minutes from our September 2nd meeting, any changes, adjustments to the minutes needed? Oh,
None for me.
all right. So getting into our first agenda item, kind of the first and second agenda item is last month or earlier this month, I guess we had some feedback from Keith on the strategic plan draft. And so over the intervening weeks between last meeting and tonight, Virginia and Keith met and made some proposed updates to the strategic plan. So I took those updates and worked them into the draft that we had going. I think Virginia, you had worked on just like one draft prior to
Mm-hmm.
the team draft. So
Right.
I the exact changes that you had requested. There wasn't a huge difference, but I took the
Mm-hmm.
exact changes that you and Keith had worked on, um, put them together in the draft that we shared with the committee tonight. So before I accepted the changes, I wanted to review those, and that should have been in the meeting materials that was shared out. It was seen like the edit, the track changes enabled. So wanted to review those and see if we accept those changes and or have any additional feedback. So from there, wanting to talk about, I think it's October 20th, Connie, is the select board meeting that we're tentatively scheduled in for. So want to
That's
talk about.
that's what we've asked for. And I can confirm that after we finish working on it tonight that we're still good for it. Like
Okay,
that's
so
still
yeah, I
fine.
guess tonight talking about how do we want to present this, what makes sense in that respect.
But
So,
are we first going to review the plan? Is that the idea?
yeah. So let me pull that up here. I'll pull up the live draft and then the rest of you can follow along with what I'm sharing, or you should be able to see the track changes in the meeting materials that were there.
Yes. Can see them.
Okay. So just the first note here, KO was Keith. Initials, no says my name. This is his comment here. So basically he suggested working in the fact that the Richmond Housing Committee advocated for the Tier 1B exemption. And just talking a little bit about that as an example of positive progress. So I am for making that change and working that in there.
Yeah, would that be going under in the zoning section, or? I guess, is that a zoning change? I mean, it's not, it will create an overlay district in the zoning ordinance. So, I mean, but wherever you want to put it, I think is fine.
He's recommended in the introduction, just as an example of what we've done, like, or, okay.
Yeah, just as how we have
Okay.
move the ball forward, right? And using this as an example. So I think
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems to make more sense in the zoning recommendations, but,
I agree.
you know, because there are a bunch of other strategies in the overall plan besides that. So, could put it in there somewhere.
okay.
Or wherever you want, Mark, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I think it's
It-
probably a
yeah,
good
I think
idea
it-
to show that we've done something. So,
Yeah. I think as long as we're aligned on the concept here, we can weave
Yeah.
that in where it makes sense.
mhm.
Okay, so next getting into the zoning recommendations, and I think in one of the responses, which was an email I had also included in the packet, which was from Keith to myself with just some of his overarching points. And I think one of the concepts that stood out to Keith was around the term streamlining. And I think in his mind, that means something different in the zoning world and planning and zoning world than maybe in my mind. So
Yeah, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit whenever you want me to, but
okay. So I had included in the note without confusion on the stream, it's hard to understand. Streamlining infers reduction of requirements, something that often cannot take place due to statutory zoning requirements. So it was this kind of a use of term was how I took that away as being maybe part of the part that he took issue with. So Connie, or Virginia, do you have more?
yeah. So the whole question about streamlining in the town plan and our town plan work, at least 4 sections have come up with an action item that says streamline something about the zoning process or the regulations and it is not clear what everybody means by this. Somehow they feel that streamlining it will improve the outcomes or something, or will it improve the experience for the applicant, or will improve the experience for the town. So I really felt like we needed to define those things that we're actually talking about. Instead of just saying we're going to streamline something, what does that mean? Does it mean make less requirements? Does it mean make them more complicated? Does it mean, what exactly does it mean? So Keith and I sat down and made a list of the actual things that we thought that we should be doing with our requirements, thinking about the applicant's experience. And of course, we can't control the way the applicant feels about things. We can just try to make a good process that is clear and that is user-friendly. So we developed, both for this document and wherever it occurs in the town plan, a list of the things that we can actually do about our process and our regulations, so that we're all talking about the same thing, because when we talk about streamlining, we are not all talking about the same thing. So I don't know if you want to scroll down further through your document.
Is that these points here, work with the planning and zoning office to revise zoning and subdivision application forms, procedures and
Can you go further in your document that you are screen sharing to number 4, the item number 4?
Is this under the, you talking about, oh, item number 4, yeah, it's right here.
Where is item 4? I'm seeing item 1 on my screen.
Does
Zoning
anyone else see item
recommendations.
4?
That's the same with me.
I'm seeing
So,
1. We
I'm
just
not
need to
seeing you scroll.
scroll further down in this document.
I'm scrolling. Let me,
It's not moving on our end.
all right, let me stop. Oh, hold on. That was my bad. I will.
There's no bad, since there's just helping each other out.
Get your
I'll try.
9-year-old up there, Mark. Okay.
How's that
There we
looking?
go. Yes, yes.
Okay, so
yes.
this is better, and they have actually, we're trying to have the same set of points throughout the town planning process and in the strategic document, because those are the things that Keith and I exhaustively, with a lot of discussion, felt that it's worthwhile to do and could be done and should be done without impugning that the planning process is not working at all, which is what he reacted to before. So anyway, so 1 is what you see there. Work with the planning and zoning office. Don't start out right away going to a consultant, right? Start with what we've got, which is the planning and zoning office. To revise the zoning and subdivision regulation application forms, procedures, and regulations as needed to emphasize transparency and clarity, and to manage applicant expectations. And I think the one that we've ended up with for the town plan is just a little bit different, but it's similar to that. We have divided out to revise the subdivision regulations to include the major and minor subdivisions. So Andrew, you talked about that. So most other municipalities have major and minor subdivisions so that more can be administratively approved. So that's one of the things that's on the list. It's a very exact, specific kind of thing that we can actually do and understand what it is we're doing. Then we've got revise the conditional use regulations to allow broader use of the administrative approval. So with conditional use, you have to go before the DRB, so not everything should have to be a conditional use. More things could be a permitted use where you wouldn't have to go to the DRB. So that is an actual thing that we can do. So yeah, B was the major and minor subdivisions, and we haven't looked since I think 2009 at the subdivision regulations anyway, the planning department, which is way too long. The subdivision regulations should be revised. In the zoning ordinance, we have gotten rid of the master development plan requirement for a planned unit subdivision, but we never got it out of the subdivision regs. So that's been on our program for 6 months or more, is to now update the subdivision regs to also remove references to a master development plan, which we felt was not helping anybody. It was giving neighbors the idea that stuff would never change. It was a problem for developers. We talked to our attorney. He was also fine with that. So anyway, revising the subdivision regs is definitely on our list. So then we come down to D, which is incorporating internal planning policies. So it turns out that not only are there the regulations, but then you find out that there are also some internal policies about the way they do things. So to me, it seemed like, well, you really should be telling people up front what all the regulations are, including the internal planning policies that have been formulated to take care of a number of situations which aren't exactly in the regulations. So, you know, I don't know exactly all of what these internal planning policies are, but I think it is worth looking at them and making it clear up front to people if there's something else besides the regulations that needs to be done. So incorporating them in the initial instructions giving to applicants, and we've taken out to reduce the number of follow-up conferences with planning and zoning staff that are needed, because Keith didn't really feel like this was causing a lot of extra conferences. So we're hoping that it will save people time if they know already up front. For instance, the things that you have to have for a site plan review, you have to have elevations and whatever else you have. You can't mostly just draw it on a napkin. You know, you have to have certain things. So if you would put that right up front, tell people what it is that you want to have, that would save them time. They could do it right away. So then the next one, don't see it on the screen anymore, but I'm looking at my copy of it. Providing applicant with a comprehensive list of state permits that will be required for their particular projects, indicating when in the review process the permits will be required. And you know, there are a bunch of state permits, and Keith felt that they were indicating to people what those permits were, but it didn't seem like that was going very clearly, and, you know, that people were understanding what permits they needed and when they needed them. Do you just need the permit, state permit by the certificate of occupancy? If it's a wastewater permit, do you need it before construction? So all of those things could be made more clear. Now, this is not going to make the forms any shorter, which some people think of as streamlining, but it's going to make the process simpler because people will know this information up front. And then we had educating town residents that the character of the neighborhood as a defense, it can't be used to appeal affordable housing projects. So that was passed in Act 47. So if people are thinking of opposing a project of affordable housing development because of a character of the neighborhood argument, you're not allowed to use that anymore. So anyway, so that was a list of all things that we thought were specific enough, they mean something exactly, and we would like to see them throughout all these documents. So that's where this all came from, that list that you see there.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. I think that's really helpful to understand where where Keith and you are coming from here. I think the genesis of the consultant came from, we've heard this feedback through the conversations that I had around with different stakeholders, CCRPC, some of the folks that work in affordable housing, as well as the feedback from the housing survey that you enter into you have a project on your plate, you enter into the process, and there are like surprises along the way. Maybe you weren't able to plan for. And so where I'm not a planning expert, and or a zoning expert. So I can't give that advice as to what is needed. So I think that's where the genesis of bringing in a consultant that can look at our process for an outside view came from.
Yeah.
For what that was the kind of the
Right.
thought process there.
And I think Keith, well, how about you start, with the planning department? And
Sure.
because this word streamlining is used so much, it's, meaningless kind of. Because you say streamlining and people just don't know what you're talking about, and so their eyes glaze over. I would like to say also that it's not on here, but we have added, and I'm not looking at my town plan material at the moment. We have also added an item, a number in here, which says strengthen the DRBs. The DRB should strengthen its rules and procedures. Now, they are in charge of their own rules and procedures. This is new, this is not on your document, but we've added it to this list and we can put it in your document. The DRB should strengthen their rules and procedures to require a site visit to be done and require that they review the site plan, that they actually look at it. Because Keith says sometimes in these processes, don't really look at it until like the time of the meeting, which is not enough to understand what it's really saying. So
What was that again? Strengthen its rules and procedures to review.
There are 4 items, and I guess I can look them up if I cannot lose the Zoom here.
So hold on, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I do, my work is in quality improvement, which can cover lots of different things. But one of the things that we try not to do when we're trying to make something work better is to tell someone else how they can improve when we're really not the owners of the process or the users of the process. So here's what I'm thinking. We've heard feedback. Oh, and we've lost Andrew, just so you know, so that we may have to like revisit some of this. But we've heard feedback that from a developer's point of view, the process for getting your developmental stuff improved could be better. And we have decided to say in our housing plan that we would really like to support that. And when I hear that, support means what can I do to help you, not here's what I think you should do, because everything Virginia just read through, I understand as being true, but it isn't the housing committee that is the doer of those things. In other words, this is highly specific based on experts, i.e. Keith and Virginia, saying, if we were going to improve, here are some ways to improve it. This is what you should be saying in order to make it better, which is like lovely to hear. But the housing committee, I, like Mark said at the beginning, I'm no expert in this. And what I would be more interested in doing, speaking for me, is kind of taking the user, remember user friendly, the user approach, which is what do people who come to the town to do development experience? What is their experience? And some of it might be, these are the laws, and you're not allowed to use, maintain the character of the town as a part of your process, and that requires education and understanding. And other things might actually have an opportunity to be improved based on customer feedback. But I mean, I'm glad to work with the planning and zoning office. Number 4 is right in front of me on the screen. And I would be delighted to do something productive to make the town more accessible to developers who want to develop units which provide housing, which, is why the housing committee exists. But as helpful as all of these items are, because they mean something real to Virginia and Keith, they could change based on what is it that the user experience actually is. So I wouldn't want to throw any of this language away. It belongs somewhere. I don't know that it belongs in the strategic housing plan because it's really dependent on what the user's experience is and how do we turn that into something that is both legal and truthful and useful, and then can go on and provide some change. So I'm gonna stop there. I I'm not being critical of any of the recommendations. I'm just thinking that they belong in someone else's strategic plan. Like this sounds like a great piece for the, zoning office's strategic plan, or whereas our job is to be supportive, particularly in understanding what is what is it like on the user end, because that's really who it is that I think we've been listening to for the past couple of years is the users of the process. And we should be helping that voice be communicated so that the people who understand zoning and planning and all the rest of that can say, well, this is what's possible, and potentially to help them do that. Andrew's trying. Um,
Hmm.
So you're feeling
so
this is too prescriptive to be in the plan. I mean, there are some qualifiers around examples of
yeah,
changes that may be considered include.
right. So they're not, so a plan it isn't exactly a promise, but it's a scope of here's what our work will be around. And as I'm planning to stay with this committee for a good long while, I hope. And I'd like this committee to make real contributions to the town. Absolutely, yes. Um, but I'm not ever, at least not in my current trajectory, going to be smart about the planning and zoning office in a way that Virginia and Keith aren't. I mean, they're the ones that are the experts. I think I as an individual on the housing committee, so I'm not trying to speak for everybody, are helpful in reaching out to the community and finding out what's the feedback, what are the opinions, what's being said, like Brandy did for the groups that she assembled and all the people that she talked to. That was the kind of consulting I was thinking about was, can we go and collect more specific feedback about what the user's experience is? I don't have any trouble with this, but I don't believe the housing committee owns this. And if it doesn't own it, it shouldn't put it in the strategic housing plan. It should put in what it can actually own and do. And 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 I know we're doing this because Keith got offended, I think, is the right word, by us suggesting that the process could be better streamlined. But what we really can do is say to the town, and that might include Keith and the planning and zoning office, here's what the feedback is. Here's what people are experiencing right now. And in that light, be more useful in trying to focus on where the planning and zoning office might focus their improvement, if not streamlining efforts, while knowing that this is their work, it's not our work. We're trying to help the town learn how to do housing better. But our connection is to the community. It's not in knowing what regulations need to be revised, although we should pay attention and understand that so we can follow along. But this isn't based on our knowledge, it's based on Keith's knowledge. And Keith's knowledge is good. And these sound like good things to work on. And Virginia, you probably helped him do it. So, you know, kudos to both of you, but I'm not sure this belongs in the housing committee strategic plan. That's all.
Yeah, so as a member of the housing committee, which I am, I think it makes sense to be as specific as possible as to what is going to make the process better. And it's not just, so it was a very small sample that Brandy talked to, people who had problem with things. She didn't talk to all the people who didn't have a problem with things. So there's that. There's this very small sample size of people who, thought that the DRB didn't come to enough meetings, that there wasn't a quorum of the DRB. Well, that is something we can't do anything about. But these are things that I don't see why the housing committee can't acknowledge are going to make the process more clear and more user-friendly, like laying things out at the beginning of the process. What we really want to avoid is people suggesting that we streamline the process, because that goes nowhere and people don't really know what it means. So the idea is to actually suggest things that are going to make it more clear and the process more straightforward. Applicants have to go through a process, and the town, the town doesn't want to make, it is not in the town's best interest to make it so easy to do anything that you can do anything you want, basically. We've got to have these regulations, we've got to have these processes to make it fair to everyone, so that everybody plays on a level playing field. And it just, if you want to leave all of these things out, I think it's unfortunate, because it's actually giving your recommendations about what is going to make this process better. We're helping you to, helping our committee to know what is going to make the process better. So, if you just want to put the first thing down that it says, work with the planning and zoning department to improve clarity and emphasize transparency and manage applicant expectations, because that's part of what the problem is. So all of those things, if you just want to put that in and don't have the specifics, well, the specifics will be in the plan anyway. They will be in the new town plan in community development section. These things will all be listed. So I don't know.
What would be, so I guess, and anybody can feel free to interrupt me, but I'm wondering what will be most helpful. We're going to make let's just put this in context. We were at the select board, and we asked them what their priorities are and what they'd like us to focus on after we'd finished doing some reviews of specific properties. And they said, we don't know, you figure it out. That's what I recall at any rate. And then after that, we, with a lot of work from Mark and Virginia and other people, we now have a document that says, here's some of the things that we can do. And here we have, an example of what our recommendations are under zoning, which includes recommendations to improve this process within Richmond. If it is helpful to planning and zoning and DRB for the housing committee to say, we recommend working on this because we've learned this through one of our senior members on the housing committee, that these things would make a difference, we can do that and present that back to the select board in a couple of weeks. But like if I was making the presentation and somebody in the select board or the public were to say to me, so why did you think that this piece was important? I would be saying, Virginia, are you there? Because
Right.
I
Well,
don't-
Andrew suggested, for instance, the minor and major subdivisions. So he's on this committee also, and he knows something about what the process is. I would like to hear kind of what he has to say about this.
I was
Andrew?
offline for a big portion of the conversation when Connie started, but I
Okay.
have a feeling it's just about how specific we are, and I see both sides. But I do think that if we're providing accurate specifics, because we have members on the housing committee that have a clear insight into the zoning department and that history, I don't know that there's any negative repercussion from being more detailed than less detailed.
So have you had a chance to read through these, Andrew, and you're pretty comfortable with them? And I'm sorry you've been offline. I understand it's hard.
Yeah, I don't see, I mean, for number F, I wasn't sure if that was just related to affordable housing projects or all housing projects. I thought that character of the neighborhood was just no longer an objection that could trigger an Act 47 review. Maybe I'm incorrect. There's a lot of fine print in the home bill. So that would be something I'd want to make sure is accurate. I'm sure it's accurate for affordable, but is it any housing project?
No, I think
But
it's
again,
just affordable.
Okay.
I think the language is for affordable housing, which is what we
Okay.
got here. But
Yep. So I don't see any glaring issues. I think, Connie, in your defense, I think that if somebody asks you about specifics in there, yeah, you just say, it was a group effort, and I don't know everything buried inside there, but luckily we have a lot of people on the housing committee that have a lot of different experience in different sandboxes, and we all lend our various opinions and experiences to formulate these concepts. And we did consult with zoning as we
Yeah.
put this together. So it seems like what's being extracted from Keith, even though the process was rough to get here, streamlining is like a cliche word. Every person hates it. That's an administrative. To Virginia's
Yeah.
point, it's extremely vague. So I have
Yeah.
no qualms
Okay.
with what's being produced and provided here. I think this is an improvement.
Okay, then I withdraw my thought. Thanks for helping me get that sorted out.
No, I think that was good to talk through. Because at the same time, right, we have the section, I know that wasn't immediately in the review, but around like water and sewer regulation policy, like, are we being too specific here or not specific enough? Again, we're not experts here, but this is the information that we gathered, right?
yeah, and like I said, if you all want to just put the first statement that is in number 4 under zoning regulations, if you want to just leave it at that, if you think that's enough specificity on this topic, these items are going to appear in the zoning and in the community development section of the town plan. We have put those as, and all the other sections that want to refer to streamlining the zoning, the business section wanted to do it, housing, a couple of other sections wanted to refer to streamlining the zoning. We are going to refer them all to this list that is in the community development section under transparent government. So, it will be there, and the planning department is going to have it, obviously, as tasks that they're going to work on. So, I guess it's fine if you just want to put the first part in, if that's more like how much information you've put in the other sections. I think that's okay, and then you won't be asked why you think that they're why you think that those things would work. So it's good either way, whatever people want to do.
I'm okay with leaving it in, but anyone have objections?
Yeah, well, it's more specific. I mean, it does give people an actual idea that these are things that we actually want to do. And it was important to have Keith's buy-in because he's going to be the one to do them. So along with the planning commission.
So I guess that was part of my concern, is having something in the housing committee strategic plan that the housing committee can't actually do. But it
Well,
says work with the zoning and planning commission
yeah.
and committee. So I see that. And it can also be good to have many voices saying a similar message to help people recognize what needs to happen and move forward. So I get that too.
Well, I think it's the same for the water section, water and sewer section. Those aren't things that we can do either. But I think this is a roadblock for a roadmap for the town to also follow and think about, right?
Yeah, because the housing committee is not going to be able to solve this problem about housing without working with all of these other people, including water and sewer and the planning and zoning department. We had a few other comments. I don't know if you want to go over them, but in all of the sections of the strategic housing plan.
Yeah, I think there were just some minor changes in language here, which I think I was in line with. Revise zoning to allow housing in the commercial village districts. That's just being more specific, expand the current density bonus program to all districts.
Yeah, so number 2, we already have the density bonus program. Right now, it only applies to Jolena Court, but our hope is to expand it to the other districts. So that's why we changed that one, number 2.
And then investigate increasing the maximum allowable height of buildings. It just softens that, I think, was that statement right there, instead of increase the maximum allowable investigates.
Yeah, because there's going to have to be a lot of community discussion about that item, I think, before I would like to say that I recommend it. I mean, it's already allowed by the state for affordable housing, so it's probably a direction that we want to go in, but a lot of discussion going to have to happen.
Any issue with those changes there in those other 3 paragraphs?
Nope.
On my
So,
end.
oh, go ahead, David. Okay, good. So there was a comment here, state and federal housing, town support town support from the select board and relevant government bodies. This effort includes letters of support for specific projects, local, and organized approval and permitting process, clear zoning regulations, master plans. So I think this was a comment from Keith around, please be specific on what is not working. The process is organized and regulations are clear to the administrators. The changes needed to tell exactly what you're looking for. So I think this top section here was more of an introductory section around what is optimal, not necessarily highlighting what is not working. So it was just some statements around the town. Any town has a duty or to encourage housing, affordable housing has these are some things that help encourage that in the town. And this is where the select board and or governing bodies could help support that, right? So letters or organized approval. So it was just more of a statement, not saying that there was a specific problem per se.
So one suggestion is to put the word background right in front of from a financial perspective. So background colon, kind of setting up that this is contextual information to help understand what follows.
So put it here.
Yeah, just maybe that will help people who are reading it saying this isn't what we're recommending needs to happen. This is just contextual information that'll help you understand what it is we later propose.
Well, I mean, I think Keith's point was that he doesn't want people to read this and say, oh, we don't have an organized approval and permitting process. Well, we do. We have a very organized approval and permitting process. It needs work. It needs some revision, and it could be made more clear. But it's not like we don't have an organized approval and permitting process or relatively clear zoning regulations. So I think that's what he was objecting to. He would like those to be taken out because he doesn't want people who are reading it to look at it and go, oh, we don't have those things. You could, and the select board is going to get involved in that somehow. So I don't know. I mean, if we leave the stuff about zoning in the zoning section and don't talk about it in this section, that would seem like maybe, that would be a little more organized of this document, is to not talk about this again, because we've already talked a whole section about the zoning. So.
And does that section include now improving the approval and permitting process and clarifying zoning regulations, Virginia? Is it inclusive of what this is alluding to, even though we weren't saying that the process isn't good? But given that, I think the point of this is to say, here's what makes for a good support of new housing construction: town support, financial assistance, blah, blah, blah.
In Richmond. This is about Richmond.
This
This
is
should be about Richmond, right?
Well, this is about this is a new section, and we're saying here there's a recipe needed to have a vibrant, affordable and housing construction market in your town, right? Like, affordable housing is not going to be built just because by a commercial developer out of the goodness of their heart. There are some factors that need to make it work from a financial perspective. So it's saying you need a town that's on board, town governing body that's on board with supporting affordable housing. You need a financial assistance and subsidies as part of the recipe. So ingredient 2. Ingredient 3 is some designated smart growth areas, and in-kind support, right? Can help as well. So again, those were from some of the conversations that we had with like Champlain Housing Trust, with Carl Bolin, right, around like what makes an environment supportive of developing affordable housing.
Yep.
And so that was the thought process of like, hey, you need these things. And then we get into the specific recommendations, and it provides some background as to why these recommendations make sense. And so that's how the section was written, is here's some background, as Connie pointed out, and here are the recommendations, and that background helps support that, right? So,
yeah. So I mean, for your bullet, letters of recommendation from the town, just get rid of an organized zoning process, because that has nothing to do with letters of recommendation from the town. And where is it gone? It's gone somewhere on this screen. And the other, and clear regulations. Those don't have to do with letters of support from the select board.
I can
Town
see where you're
support.
coming from, right? Because the zoning section is now previous to this section, right? So we've already covered zoning. So I could see how that could be confusing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in some towns that don't have either a town plan or zoning, that would be relevant. But it's not
Well,
relevant here because we have an organized approval and permitting process. It's organized.
well, we don't have, I mean, we might have other things that are in that list too. Again, it's more saying typically, here's what is needed for new housing construction to happen. I
Yeah, I
mean,
think, but it's confusing because it doesn't apply in Richmond.
well, I think it does apply. That's why you do it. You have it, as you said. It wasn't evaluative. It
Yeah.
was it was more of a here are the things we want to check off. Some of these we could still work on, like
Yeah.
letters of support. I hear that. I understand that people don't want someone to read this and assume that it's an evaluation of, what the town is or isn't doing.
Well, that
That
is how it comes across.
that's how it comes across. So,
Yeah.
so, and the way you'd like to change that is by taking out references to the approval and permitting process, although I can understand that those are necessary for new housing construction too. But the goal here is to talk about subsidized housing assistance programs, uh, which I assume would need an organized approval and permitting process. Is there it's good to have a document that's like consistent in what it's trying to educate others about. And I was just wondering if there's a way to help it come across differently that still includes here are some essential things that we always need to remember is important to help support new housing construction. Is there a different way aside from removing the words, which could be interpreted to be an evaluation, but really this is not about evaluation. This is about supporting a good structure and what's included.
Does it, what if we just made it more vague of like uh, aligned policies in town, aligned policies supporting affordable housing and not mentioning the word zoning or permitting?
And you use aligned instead of organized, because when you say something, I think for Virginia, part of what you're saying is if you specify an adjective like in this case a verb, but we're working as an adjective like organized, it's implying that it's not organized. And when you say clear zoning regulations, the implication is that they're not clear, even though it doesn't say that. You're worried that that's how people will think, is that,
I mean, what if it was like, uh,
Can't we just have town support from the select board and relevant governing bodies? Uh, This effort includes letters of support for a specific project. That's what that is headed. So anyway,
Or add at the end, these factors are in place already. This is a great first step forward. I don't know, can we just acknowledge that it's there? It seems like it's a bullet point of what's needed. We're not saying we need to change anything. Is there a way to simply indicate that some of these factors are already in place and these ones are not? We
I
could
mean,
fluff them up.
not to play devil's advocate here, but didn't we just say in the previous section that there were like 5 things that the town could do to help improve the process?
Yes, but I don't know what that has to do with subsidized housing. That's just about somebody going to develop, subsidized housing much different than affordable housing per se, and also just subdivision. Um, I don't know. I'm getting.
well,
I mean,
I
what
think
about what about
that,
what I put in there? Just policies aligned with affordable housing construction, affordable housing development.
what do you think, Virginia?
So what policies are you thinking about exactly? Like the density bonus program or?
Yeah, I mean, anything that helps to encourage,
Yeah, could be the height of the buildings. Yeah.
yeah,
I
height
mean,
of buildings.
it it's so town support means broad town support, not just letters of support in particular, but in ongoing, how all the different ways that we can be supportive of uh, subsidized housing assistance programs.
Well, it doesn't say that. It actually says town support from the select board and relevant governing bodies. So it doesn't actually say town support. It says town support from the select board. So that's a specific thing.
And the select board's responsible for policies, right?
And policies are a governmental thing. They're not a town-wide thing. They're policies that have been created by the town government somehow.
Oh,
When
I
you
was
say
thinking,
why
go
are you
ahead.
meaning citizens? Is that what, like, town citizens, is that what he's meaning by town-wide or just town governing bodies? What do we mean by the town-wide, I guess? What's the definition of town-wide that's used in this conversation?
And what's the definition of the relevant governing bodies? I mean, what are we thinking of here? The Planning Commission, the DRB, the Housing Committee? I
Well,
guess.
I see this as an, right, in this town plan, there's a number of items that we're recommending. So it could be, hey, as a town, we support, and I think it starts with the top, like we support the 400 units by 2050, right? And so there are items that water sewer could participate in that. There are items that maybe the energy committees could participate in that, right? All of those town organized bodies could help support, okay, yes, our town has a mission to reach this goal. What part do I play as a committee? So when we went to the select board, right, it didn't really seem like they were all 100% on board with wanting affordable housing in Richmond, right? And so we're saying it starts with you all, and you're creating the policies and or directing, approving things, etc., that our committees are doing, developing town plans, right? Are they all aligning with wanting affordable housing? So that's how I see as support from select board and other governing bodies, right? Everyone has a part to play. The road and the road the our town road guys, right? They could help support in their budget. Hey, we'll help building sidewalks for affordable housing projects. Like, I don't know. What does that look like? It's up to them to think through, but that's what I would see as town support, right? We're all marching to this goal.
Well, I mean, I think the bold titles of your 4 points could just stand on their own without any further verbiage. Town support from the select board and relevant government bodies, that's fine. Financial assistance or subsidize, that's fine. You got to get the money somewhere. Town designated smart growth area, which repeats what is in 1, establish master plans outlining targeted growth areas. This is town designed smart growth areas. And then the in-kind support. So I don't know, I think those all stand fine without any other explanation.
does any of that sort of unbolded material, does that does the germane parts of that we'd like to work on, they all appear in the recommendations below, or is there anything in there that we'd need to make sure appeared in the recommendations below? Because if the recommendations cover them, like letters of support, for example, or specific kinds of town support, then we can specify them in the specific recommendations. Because I think it's in the recommendations that matter to the town or to the select board. What do you think you should be working on? What is it that you think you should be telling us to do, or how will you like take your time and make it a contribution in terms of how the town can move forward with respect to housing? So have we included everything necessary, Mark, in the recommendations?
I think so. We talked about in-kind support.
And is
Maybe,
this only state and federal subsidized housing assistance program, or are we talking about any kind of affordable housing? Because
Well,
some
we've got
is subsidized by the builder, you know what I mean, by the project itself. It's self-subsidized. It could happen, I suppose.
well, I
Okay.
think this was right more around the fact that, so yes, it could be any subsidies that come through that a builder could get. The town in general is not going to apply for these things, but there's a role we play as a town to make it more successful that a builder will qualify for these subsidies, right? So what we've heard is that the agencies or organizations that might grant subsidies want to see that the town is has skin in the game, is here to play, is wanting this and wanting things to be successful. And that's the message I think we're trying to get across here in this whole section is what is the town doing to want this project? Because if an organization says, I have $500,000 I want to give to a project, they want to give it to a project and tie up those funds on a project that is most successful and not one that might cross the finish line, right? Because if it's one that might cross the finish line, then those funds may be on a clock and might have to be used by an X date. And if the project doesn't get funded, then everybody loses out because that money might not be used, right? So the whole point of the section here is that the town has some skin in the game and says, yes, we are open for business, a little bit of business for affordable housing here, and we will take these actions. We'll write letters. We have designations in our town for affordable housing projects. We are creating active partnerships with Champlain Housing, Habitat for Humanity. Our town says we'll build sidewalks in front of the affordable housing units, right, to help cover that cost, or we'll waive hookup fees for our waters. Like, I don't know, whatever those are, right? It shows skin in the game. And so that's what we're trying to communicate here.
Yeah, so how about we just have a different title that isn't state and federal subsidized housing assistance programs? The title of it would be affordable housing or something, or creation of affordable housing, or, you know, something about any kind of subsidized housing.
Or how about
Maybe it
this
should just be
funding for
subsidized housing. It's not,
Yeah.
because we're not limiting it to state and federal subsidized housing. That was my only concern with the title, is that recommendations are fine, but they're not limited to state and federal subsidized housing. Right? They're for any affordable housing. And then I think Connie is right in that, you know, you don't need to go into detail with your bullets because we've got them in the recommendation. So just put the bullet in without any further explanation and have your explanation down in the recommendations for subsidized housing. Does that make sense, or?
All right, how about that for a title? Successfully funding affordable housing projects.
Sure, that's better. Yeah.
Man, I guess I'm okay crossing some of those out.
Yeah. The thing is as you were saying that, Virginia, I realized that what we'd set up above in zoning, where we said streamlining is vague, tell people what you mean. You know, when you say town support, that's vague. The unbolded stuff says this is what that means. Letters of support, align the policies, get master plans, and so forth. So so they because those are not recommend, we've responded to those things we've needed, thank you to Mark, listed as recommendations. The original concern was that this would be seen as, oh, this is a list of things we have to do because we don't have them. Well, we do have some town support from the select board and relevant bodies, but we don't have everything we need. So saying these are the things that are important. This is what that means. Now, here are the things that we think should actually happen. I'm trying to help change make sure that this is not looked at it from an evaluative perspective, but I don't want to lose the sense making that those words help support. What do you mean by town support? I mean, it sounds good, but it sounds as broad as streamlining sounds, it's like, well, what does that mean? I think the words are helpful for people to kind of get in their brain. Here's what successfully funding affordable housing projects include. Da, 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 da. Then, because of costs and other things, here's some recommendations. Would that be helpful? So it would say something like, typically, successful funding of affordable housing projects includes the following 4 things. Bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. And then proceed. It could be simply just like a launching pad to get that, to put that in place. Does that help, Virginia?
Already had typically in here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, I would take out the second typically in that case. You don't need it twice. Thank you for pointing that out.
Andrew, what do you got here?
Andrew, you're on mute, Andrew, in case you are trying to talk to us. And it looks like you're busy. All right.
Okay.
So what are you suggesting exactly, Connie? Just having the bullet points? You want the other wordage in there about explaining it a little bit more? Yes? Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yes, that's what I was saying is actually I think if we keep it from sounding like a recommendation or an evaluation, then it helps provide a little more detail in terms of what do we need by town support, financial assistance, and all the rest of those things. Smart growth areas. I mean, if anything is wrong, then it shouldn't be there. But if we can stage it so it sounds like here's what you need to do. So, I mean, I think that changing the title helps a lot. So now it's like, okay, we want to be successful in funding affordable housing. Here's what that takes. Now here's what we need to do. I'm okay with that. Your updates are failing. Did you see that, Mark?
I see that. I tried, that's why I unshared my screen for a second. I tried to
Yeah.
tried to fix that. I'll have to just save this and re-upload it to the.
Okay, Andrew says in the chat, the idea of leaving the bold bullet points seemed to cut to chase and eliminate the explanation under. So he was saying it's okay to get rid of the unbolded statements, I think is what that means. So it all depends. Go ahead.
I think if you say town support from the select board and relevant governing bodies, they will understand that it might include a letter, you know what I mean? I mean, it'll probably have to include a letter if you want town support, as opposed to,
As a
or voting on something
Yeah,
at the
right.
select board level, or, you know, town
Yeah,
support
yeah.
is town support from the select board.
Yep.
So, and financial assistance or subsidies to support moderate and lower income residents. What does that mean, actually, the second one? Financial assistance or subsidies to support moderate and low income residents. Oh, via below market rent or sale prices.
And then it explains a little bit about the role of Vermont Housing and Conservation Board and others play. I think it helps. It would help me as a
I mean, it gives a little bit
complete
more
novice.
kind of a broader understanding of the topic, I guess. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I don't mind either way. I mean, you could, these are like things you could put in your recommendations, but
So leave it in for now, Virginia. I think you and Andrew are like in the make it simpler, and Marker and I are in the, you
yeah,
know, help explain it more, but
right.
by
those are
detail, if you want,
differences.
like the bullet is there, but if
I
you
don't
want
care that
more
much,
there,
I guess. As long as you take out the part about the organized permitting process, I'll be all right.
It's out. That's out.
policies aligned with affordable housing development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's let it be then.
And then community development outreach support, these were some of the changes.
Yeah, so these are my changes. These have nothing to do with Keith, but
I was
the,
fine with them.
okay, you know, you
Yeah,
can't
no problem.
simplify things. And if it's going to be an affordable housing development, you're just not going to be able to simplify it enough to make it seem like it's simple. And it doesn't seem like,
Yeah. And we've already discussed that up above. It's not
Okay.
necessary to go through it again. I
Okay.
totally agree. Yep.
okay,
I get a little verbose, you know, I do.
yeah. I know, I have that problem too sometimes, so.
All right, and then there was a comment around just saying that we can't go over 80% capacity, so technically we basically could double our capacity usage today versus almost triple it.
Right,
was-
and I have no idea whether that is correct or not, although that seems to be what people are saying about the water system, is that 30 to 40% number, which, you know, as Keith pointed out, you can't go above 80, so,
And then I
I can
think
find it
just
somewhere. Keith sent allocation information on what is currently allocated, including Stone Corral, and what's projected or already been allocated. That information's about a year old. But it was in that, the total allocation was right around 40%.
yeah. Okay, that sounds good, yeah.
And then I think you were just clarifying that we expanded successfully, but did not extend.
Right, so the problem with the gateway is that people voted to expand the district, which is the first step in extending the lines. You have to have them be within the water and sewer district. So the district was successfully expanded, but nobody is willing to pay, the residents are not willing to pay because of this arcane financing system we have to extend the lines. So it's,
No, thank you for clarifying that. Okay. So I think we made it through
Yay!
all the changes that
Thank
we
you.
made and/or made. I'll just add this one piece around the Richmond housing, the tier 1B. So with that,
and do you want to have this in the so-called almanac section, or what we're calling the data and additional information section at the end of the town plan? Do you want the strategic housing plan to appear?
I think so. Do we feel like we need to run it by the select board before we like actually mint this? I mean, I guess the select board is not gonna really, like, what do you see as the select board process here? And I know we're running out of time.
Well, what are you asking them on your October 20th meeting? What are you going to ask them to do?
Approve.
Get
Improve your plan?
their support behind the plan, right? And there are some actions that they would take. There are some actions that they would need to support with the Water Sewer Commission. They would need to be, I think we're just looking for their their acceptance that this is a direction that they feel like the town should take.
Mhm.
Right? Like, I don't know if we have a specific ask, and I guess to you, I've never, other than that one meeting, gone in front of the select board.
Right.
So do you feel like we need to have a specific ask for them? And I'm not gonna sit there reading it, or we're not gonna sit there reading it. Like, how do we?
Yeah, I'm
present-
not sure that you are asking them to do anything. I think you're presenting to them this report, just like we were presented that other report that we did, that this is our work, the housing committee's work, we're bringing you this plan, this is our strategic plan, and that's what we got. So, you know, and they're gonna, just like with the town plan, which is a lot of the different the sections of the town plan, the 11 sections, have different actions that they want various people to take. The select board, the planning commission, and as with our 2018 town plan, some of those were done and some of those weren't. One of the actions was to form a housing committee. That action was done, actually, by the select board. It did it. It formed this housing. It felt the need to have a housing committee, so it formed the housing committee. Maybe half of the actions were either done or are ongoing. Half of the actions haven't been done. So I think it's going to be the same with the strategic housing plan, and I think it would be fine that select board doesn't have to approve what goes into the town plan. I mean, well, they will eventually. On November 4th, the town plan steering committee goes before the select board and the public and says, here is our initial draft of our town plan. And it has an energy section in the data and additional information. This is like too much information to go into the section. It will have there's some natural resources information that's going in there. There's a history of Richmond that is going in there into this additional information section. So the housing committee strategic housing plan could go in there if that is, if that's the will of the committee.
I mean, I say why not? It further emphasizes or mints the strategic plan, right? But I guess in what format, what does that presentation look like, Virginia, for this?
Your October 20th presentation?
Yes.
Well, what I would say is
create a
that,
PowerPoint along with it? Do we just highlight some of the sections and say, hope you read it, do you have any questions? Like,
yeah, how much time do you have? Do you know?
you know, Connie, how much time we were given?
Half an hour,
I
maybe?
I don't think it was that much. Hold on, give me a second to go check my emails, and what I got from Josh. I will
They
be
have
back
so
to you in a
much to do
second.
that they're,
I don't think it's a half an hour. I really don't. I don't think I would have asked for that much.
no, they
Um,
want it to be over with as soon as possible. Pretty much any item
um,
that comes before them because they have so much to do. So, I mean, I think the presentation should just be the Housing Committee has been looking at some of these issues and has decided that we needed to have more of a long-range plan. And so we created the strategic housing plan. And then you can say that there are four sections, or are there four sections? There are four sections, and, just a brief description of what each one covers. And a lot of the things are what the housing committee is going to do, like Connie, all of the outreach stuff is going to be done by the housing committee,
yes,
presumably. So for
or
this,
with the help of others too. But yes,
yeah, it's going to be led by the housing committee, and the housing committee is going to do only those things that we have to do, and motivation and energy to do, depending on how many people are involved in the housing committee. And, a lot of those things are pretty effortful. So we'll have to see if we can do them. Some we'll be able to do, some we won't be able to do. Some of these things that are being suggested for the zoning changes and the select board activity, obviously we can't say for sure that they're going to do them, but this is what we recommend. We recommend that we have a discussion about raising the height limit, for instance. Somebody's going to have to champion that at some point, they're going to have to take it up. Okay, 20 minutes, so that's fine, that's good. We can talk a little bit about what it includes and say this is, we've laid out our recommendations for the long term. And I think it's good for the housing committee to check in periodically with the select board to tell them what we've been doing. So this is what we've been doing. We're not asking them to approve it. We're asking them to take up the recommendations if they can. But it's really going to come from the housing committee, the push for most of these things.
so that'll make for an interesting and no doubt productive year as we go forward after we have presented the strategic plan for the committee, which is the whole reason why we did it. What are we doing? And what is that going to look
Yeah, I think that gives it gives a lot of
Yeah, it gives the housing committee some structure to work with, and, there's gonna be, we want the select board to be on notice that if we have an affordable project that we want them to support, we're gonna go to them and say, we would like you to support this project. You need, have said you're for affordable housing, now we need to have a letter, that's probably not going to be able to be initiated by them, but they'll be at least on notice that this is something that we would like them to get involved with. But like you
So-
say, mostly for us, most of the housing committee to work.
Yes. Mark, are you going to be there on the 20th?
double, triple check the calendar. I think I looked. Yeah, I mean, yes, I'll have to figure out how to be there. Yep.
Okay, thanks. Virginia, will you be there?
Well, I probably won't because I have to be there for the town plan steering committee at the November meeting. I mean, I might be able to be there, but we have so much to do for the town plan that I don't know if I'm going to be able to commit to being there. But I might be
okay.
there.
All right, so you're a definite maybe.
Yeah.
And Andrew, and you can chat this or talk. Will you be there?
If I am, it would be digitally. I definitely will not be in person. I'll be in Boston.
And possibly Andrew via Zoom, which is great. That works. Mark, my intention is to be there by Zoom as well.
And on the 20th, no, I will be in Richmond on the 20th.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
So-
if as long as someone is there in person, I think that's enough. But if it turns out that Mark, you can't make it, let me know and I'll change my plans and or Virginia, we'll figure it out with Virginia.
Mhm.
Do you think I should be there in person?
Oh, you weren't planning on it? Well, you can, yeah, it's there is a sense there.
It's good to be there in person,
It's good to be there in
somebody
person.
at
It's not
least.
required. Yeah, it it means something. Don't ask me what. I am too tired at night to parse this, but I know that it's helpful when you can be there in person.
Mhm.
But if you can't, Mark, then you can't. That's okay. Got
Yeah.
it.
All right. Well, I know we have 2 minutes left. I just wanted to raise this, right? Like, the end of the year will be here before we know it. What do we want to do to help promote? Well, I guess two things. Help promote members to join the committee here, but also the chair needs to get replaced. So what does that process look like? Is anyone want to nominate themselves? Like anyone feeling like, hey, I want to be the chair of the housing committee? Yeah.
Virginia, you're already doing like
And
planning board.
you know,
No,
if
I'm
there is,
clerk.
we talk about
No, thank you.
So Andrew, were you saying
No,
something?
thank you. Yeah, no, thank you.
Uh-huh. And I'm clerk. And I would not be I would not be happy about trying to do two functions at once. No. Shall I reach out to Mairead and see if she's willing?
yeah, you give her an ask. I mean, I thought that there wasn't someone that was like jumping up and down to wanting to be the chair of the committee. So I guess what does that mean? Like, I think we either need to like bring in some new folks that we can put
Well,
the
we need
chair.
that anyway. That would be
Mhm.
good
Yeah.
anyway.
And is there any rule against like if a new person comes in, there's no rule that you have to be on a committee for a year to be a chair or anything like that? Like,
no,
No rules.
no. You could probably have a co-chair too, if you wanted to, if two people wanted to work together as chair, but.
so I think maybe we do some both internal networking amongst our connections in Richmond around, hey, there's some vacancy in the housing committee, plus maybe a couple on Port Forum posts and start getting some of those out around generating interest and talking about like, we have this plan in place that we need assistance in executing, right?
Um,
I'm already
I
looking for two planning commissioners, so.
Yeah, right. Well, people are drawn to different things. I get it, but
Right, true.
I have found that personal conversations, like the internal networking piece, um, I just find that to be more productive than posting on Front Porch Forum, and Duncan and Keith do a pretty good job of raising that issue during certain times of the year. I mean, that's not to say that we shouldn't do it because it might spark someone. It's just the personal appeal seems to help more. And I think this is a time when people have become really aware of how important the local and state structures are for helping people who have different, who are differently resourced in terms of their access to housing. And I just feel like sometimes that that really sparks it, that people feel like, oh, I really do need to participate in this way. But again, I do that better with a conversation than trying to guilt someone into it, like through a public, post of, it just seems to work better, at least for me. So that would be the way I would do it, is I will absolutely do that. Reach out to people and try to engage others. But it is good to let people know that there's a vacancy.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
So-
somebody was going to talk to Sarah Heim again, right?
I said I would do that and I haven't done it yet. Yeah. That was
Just
me.
in case she's,
Yeah, right. Putting her name on my list, and there will be others too. Yeah, I remember saying that. It's like it's been not even a month of
Yeah.
quite interesting things. Um what Mark, do you want to post something on Front Porch Forum?
Yeah, I can post something. I think it's good to just get something out there and
Okay.
see if folks reach out directly if they're interested.
All right, thank you. Our next meeting is October 28th. Will you three be able to show up? Are you there? Does it fit on your calendars?
Yes.
Does for me.
October 28th.
Yep,
Yes, I'm available.
that was a yes from Andrew. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, I should be here.
Good. All right. And then Mark, you're a yes?
Yep.
Okay, so agenda items to include. One is follow up on the select board presentation. And Mark, especially if you're doing it by Zoom, a short PowerPoint of here are the key things to remember from what it is that we already gave you is helpful. And I'm glad to collaborate with you on that if you need like a co-author on putting together a presentation. So you're pretty good at those. I don't think you need a lot of help, but I'm glad to help.
You
if I
think
can.
having a slide summarizing some of these
Yeah.
things?
And there were some changes that were made. I think we agreed on Mareed's town plan section, the housing section write-up. So the town plan steering committee that has some editorial authority made some changes in that. So I could share that with you at some point.
That would be good. So I'll add that to the agenda, which is updates on the housing section of the town plan, right?
Yes, we intend to have the sections all finished by the middle of October so that we can put them online for our November 4th presentation. So, I mean, I sent it to May Reed already. And
Yeah, I think you shared it with all of us. 'Cause I see
maybe I sent it to all of you what the changes were. They were just some changes that they wanted to make, and
you
they
need
see.
well,
Okay.
more statistics from us. I see a question around needing statistics. Is that still a need, Virginia?
As about
But then you'll have some statistics, and then we can finish the housing strategic plan revisions for the data and additional information appendices with the next couple of weeks.
right, exactly, yeah. So our plan is to try to finish the sections by the middle of October. Which is the main body of the plan. There'll be the introduction and the 11 different sections. Those are what we're going to present this select board public meeting in the library, a special meeting on November 4th. And then in the month between November 4th and December 4th, we will finish the alleged almanac, which we're rebranding as the data and additional information section. We will finish that, and Mayreed was going to put her statistics into that section. And
You
also
bet.
the strategic plan can be in there. We'll finish that in that month, as well as taking all the comments that select board members or the public make to that initial draft on the 4th of November. we'll have to put that all in there too. And have our maps.
So you want to review, I'm looking at our housing section and I didn't see any changes, so that was from September 13th, so I must not have the current copy.
Yeah, so I will send you the current copy. There were a couple of outstanding remaining questions that I thought I was going to be able to ask Mary tonight, but she's not here. Like where she got the numbers from, the median price of housing, that number. I'll just email her and get that
Yeah.
information.
Yep, that'll work. Okay, so agenda is follow up on the select board presentation of the strategic plan. And then updates on the housing section of the town plan.
Right.
Anything else that should be on our list for October 28th?
Probably the recruiting efforts.
Sorry, recruitment efforts. Yes, thank you.
Recruitment efforts, yep. And we can talk about the data and additional housing section if you want. But I think May Reed was going to do that on her own because she had the data already that she took out of the section and put into the data section. So I'll email her about that.
Okay, all right. Sounds like we've got an agenda for next time. Thanks.
Sounds good.
Are we all done then? Are we
Good. We'll call it.
finished?
Go into the meeting.
All right, we'll call it. Thank you so much.
Okay, and Mark, you're going to redo the strategic housing plan according to these changes we talked about, and then you're going to send us a version of it,
Yep.
right?
Do that.
Great.
All right. Oh, and Mark, will you also send it to Josh, or do you want me to do that?
Yeah, when does Josh need it by?
At least a week.
Yeah, at least the Thursday before the Monday meeting. And maybe a little longer since it would be something that people might need some time to read. So,
Right,
yeah,
I was going to say a week ahead, but
yeah.
I'm glad to do that, or you can do it, just make it clear if you've done it or not. Okay, Mark?
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.